I will be there.
Nice, nice work here. Yeah, wow, it's good work. Thanks,
Thank you, Ben.
appreciate this.
Oh, let's see. Nope.
All that, I just forgot my pen. I have to pull it off on my phone.
I did. Okay, so it's 6:30. I could call this meeting of the Charter Review Commission to order. And would Mike take the attendance, please?
Hold on a second. Maybe 1 minute.
Robert Brennan. Here. Scott Copley.
Here.
Scott Guthrie.
Here.
Jim Humphrey.
Here.
Brad Meyer.
Here.
Ben Pera. Sarah Repose.
Here.
Michael Stevens, I'm here, and Ted Tracy.
Here. In the future, can we also put Ray Angel on the attendance list? Because sometimes he's here and sometimes he's zooming.
We do include him in the notes section.
Right,
for additional
I
committees,
understand.
but I'll put him in as the.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's the evacuation procedures. Ben is at another meeting in the council chambers full. So I will present it, and if there's an emergency, we go right out that door right there. And it goes directly outside. Approval of minutes from March 23rd. Did everyone get a copy? Get to review them?
Yeah, I have one
You have a correction?
correction on it. Just where it says putting all suggestions to the council in one document. That was to be working one document for each topic.
We're done. Okay. I'll put
yeah.
the word each topic.
Yeah,
after
so
that.
we're not having multiple versions of the same thing floating around.
Okay. So would you like, are there any other corrections first off? And if not, would you like to,
Move to accept the minutes as correct.
as corrected? Okay.
And
Thank you,
second,
Ted. And seconded. Motion made and seconded. Pass the minutes as corrected. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Old business. Further discussion regarding elections, terms, party affiliation, ballots, and discussion and action. And did everyone get what Bob sent us? I got it as an email from Ben. There were, I couldn't open them at home for some reason. With my failing computer, so I'm looking at them now. Through the Excel files, and has everybody taken a look at them, and do they have any comments on it to see if it helps you gathering more information?
Yeah, I read through everything. Everything is very, very helpful. I think we collectively keep summarizing all these new ideas for the budget process.
Yeah.
As one example. When I was looking through it, the idea of having, I think the idea with TBDs were dates, right? Was that the
Yes.
intent? And then I know there's something I had previously shared too. I think the idea is between I think we're kind of coalescing behind this petition idea is, the number of signatures and the threshold, or the minimum threshold, are things that maybe could be percentages
Mhm.
that we could talk about. And everything else looked pretty good. I think the other thing missing too, there were two elements to North Kingstown, and I think they did the same thing in another town as well. I think was it South Kingstown, where they had, after the public hearings, which we really want to keep emphasizing these public hearings. And I've been reading and watching everything that was shared over the last week. So public hearings that need to be very well advertised. They had the idea that you could do line item suggested petitions with a very small number of signatures that the town council was provided that they could use or not use. And it's funny, it ties in nicely. I was reading the transcript from the budget referendum 2018 script. Well, some of the counselors said, well, we're really worried that this idea that was in fact passed for the referendum vote was, they felt like the public may not have as much input, which they used to have when they were able to make amendments. I'm thinking that adding that element in addition to the larger petition, the 250,000 or whatever we determine it to be, is a nice way for the public to, in writing, say, here's a good idea. And when I talked with South Kingstown, they said that's worked very, very well. So there could be like a line item level, small petition, idea, thought, change on the prop budget. So they had, if you remember, it was twofold. There was that. And then after the town council approved the budget, there was an opportunity to do this larger petition.
So the smaller petition was done as a presentation to the council itself, not to the people,
It was, in other words,
like during the budget process.
let's just say I participated, I'm at the public hearings, or I'm listening in, or I watched the video
Mhm.
the next day. I have the ability to do a petition on, line item X of budget Y. A good idea might be to do a GIS study of some woodlands. That was an example that they gave me.
Mhm.
The town council, in fact, thought it was a good idea, added the idea and the budget amount required to do that into their final budget. And they said it's worked well. I was a little concerned they might get 1 million of those, but they said it worked well. It was a great way to add input in writing, thought out, as opposed to, and I read a lot of the transcript, the old, in the gym, get in front of a microphone idea,
Mhm.
write something quickly in a piece of paper. You still get that kind of opportunity, a little more well thought out with a few signatures. So I thought that was still a pretty good idea to add that.
So it's
in.
like a smaller group of people that can present
Yes,
to the council a petition during their budget process.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then a separate group of people, if they wanted to amend the budget, doing it the same way with a petition.
Yeah, because this first level, let's say the town council gets 10 petitions with, say, 10, 20 signatures. They take those into account, they review them, they say, good, bad. They have the ability, and again, this is the example we've been seeing. They have the ability to take them or leave them, essentially. But it's a nice way to get, in a nice formal way, suggested lower level items into the budget, decrements or increments, however that might
Is
be.
it part of a hearing or is it just?
My understanding is people participate, understand the budget, and they file the petitions. I don't
Sounds
think
like
they,
it's at the workshop level. So most councils will
what
have the workshops and then the public hearings. So it almost sounds like that might be introduced at the workshop level when the council still.
I have to verify that. I thought it was after these public hearings that people could participate in, they then could submit them, but timeline's important. We should look at that again, and we can determine where it should be. That may be a better idea. In fact,
I'm just trying to understand, sorry. So when it's the larger amount of signatures, that's after the council's already said, okay, this is our budget, right?
This, the council says this is their, I'll say,
Adopted.
final or adopted budget, yes.
Right. So
At
that,
that point, the threshold is higher for signatures and the change is higher.
so that sounds like it's more at the public hearing stage. So it would make sense in that timeline for the smaller petitions to amend individual line items to be almost at the workshop level. And then once the council says, okay, workshops are done, this is our budget, then. I don't know, I'm just trying
I
to help with that.
do have it. I'd outlined it before. So after 2 public hearings, this is South Kingstown,
Yeah.
prior to April 21st, 2022, all town electors are unable to petition changes for line items or to add a line item.
So even after.
The school, I think they noted the school committee budget in total only on or before April 21st. And later on, there was a referendum petitions, the 200 signatures, $250,000.
So that would.
That was
be a-
later on.
That would be a change in an ordinance as opposed to the charter, right? Because the workshop,
Well, in theory,
Uh,
they
uh-huh.
could do that right now by ordinance
Yeah.
because they're not binding. You can offer that as an opportunity. 'Cause it's
Right, they could do that by ordinance. If it fit within our charter language.
not that there's anything that says it doesn't.
Right, you're probably.
what, 8 something, right?
I think basically it says that the town council can set whatever timeline they want.
What we currently have.
If they got to looking at the very first charter because
I was just gonna go over there and kick it.
Yeah, really.
I think someone's jacking right outside or something.
Should be 816, which should be
Capital improvement budget.
operating budget notice of hearings, or is it last of that? Option, oh, amendments after adoption would be 819. So that would be that we've been discussing. I don't see
Yeah,
any,
that's afterwards.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it would be right in
So
around
basically,
816, right near where I veto by town manager. Be in
816
that
is
same type
presenting
of
it.
process.
The other thing, just from a town clerk perspective, something for you guys to think about. Looking at 816, it says the town council shall publish in one or more newspapers of general circulation. Some towns are taking out the requirement of publishing ads in newspapers because of the fact that no one reads them, and moving more to an online portal like their website, wherever they post their agendas around town, that kind of stuff. It might be something we want to think about, giving them some flexibility. The only thing that definitely has to get published when it comes to budget time, because of state law, is it's actually from the finance department, if I remember correctly, and I'm sorry, maybe you can help me, Attorney Angel, if you are familiar with all this, but because the finance doesn't fall under me, it's like their revenues, their expenses has to go in a block ad. I know that before a budget can go to referendum. But I think the actual notice of the meetings being required to be posted in a newspaper. We now have the Secretary of State's website. We have websites for the town. I mean, this all happened before we had those things,
right.
that requirement. And it reaches very few people and is very costly to the town. I ran an ad yesterday, $850 to run an ad in the Kent County Times.
Yeah.
So you start thinking about that for every.
Do they
Every
run
ad.
ads in the reminder?
They do.
West Warwick,
Oh, I don't know
We
about West
do not-
Warwick.
we don't
Coventry
consider
does.
that.
Coventry does put it in.
They're-
That's got a-
they're
that's got a pretty
expensive
big-
too.
Big circulation, but they're pretty high priced also.
They do, but I think that there's been some question as to whether, because it's really not a newspaper, it's really just a book of advertisements. So I
Right.
think there's been some question as
Because,
to
like-
if that's considered a newspaper of general circulation.
I think their circulation is like 27,000.
It's huge.
something like that.
Yeah.
It is huge.
But
because-
but true, it is not a, it's not a journalistic
Right.
thing, news. and-
But it probably has better circulation of the town.
Yeah.
I get it for free, so
Yeah, I know,
I don't pay
that's
for it.
Yeah, with the changes, we brought it up earlier that the journalism and the media are pretty much becoming non-existent.
And not the whole town gets the reminder either.
Right, right.
They cut out my road because I'm in, I call it Lost Coventry on Hope Furnace Road because I share a zip code with Situate.
Yeah.
Hey, my- If
Depending
you
on
put in
what.
my address, it says I'm in West Greenwich, so
If
Yeah,
it-
you're right down the line, right?
I
You're going from Hopkins Hill.
I go in from Hopkins Hill,
Yeah.
yeah. But if you put it into Google Maps, some people say, what's your address? They put it in, it comes up on Google Maps as West Greenwich.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to equal west.
So even the reminder where it's a
House
paper that's
number on
widely
Google West.
available in town. Most of our residents are regularly reading it. I know mine hits my recycle bin every single time it comes in.
Yeah, it's funny, we were talking about that here too, and Ben mentioned that circulation is great, but they have no wherewithal to put it on the front page. It was on the front page. When you pull it out of your mailbox,
Maybe,
it might
yeah.
grab your attention. Again, I would just look at the cost of these things. If it's astronomically costly, don't do it. If it's a few $100
Yeah.
bucks,
well, there's another. thing that
anything
they
you can do that might help even 100 people, will take it.
There's another thing that they do around budget time, and that is they do a mailer. And they've done it, I don't know if they've done it every year in the past years, but
I think
in the past,
council-
I have got them from the council. And it's an explanation of the budget,
Mhm.
and it tries to get as much information in there as they possibly can. So I don't know if it's something that they could do maybe twice during the workshop stage, and maybe when it's after it's adopted, so that whatever happens in the workshop, if, should it make it into, the final part of the budget that gets adopted and send it to the people, fine. Because it's a lot better than having meetings and having people vote no every time.
Yeah.
So, is it, would it be a wise investment to send maybe 2 notices out when it's budget time?
It's about $20,000 every single time you send this notice.
20 grand to send
Did you
that.
figure
piece of
50
paper?
cents, 50 cents per
To every
resident? We have
registered
30,
voter.
Yeah, yeah, how many?
Or at least
registered
every
voters do we
household.
have?
Residences, yeah.
Well,
Maybe less than
it
that.
goes to the registered voters, so,
So maybe 15,000.
yeah, so,
So that'll be 2 to my house. If it goes to every registered voter, there's also a lot of duplicate.
That's what I was saying.
but I
Well,
think.
they can cut it down.
I think that they can knock out duplicates.
Yeah.
As long as you got the same mailing address. probably.
Right, so that they'll send it probably to every voting address.
Yeah.
They can.
And I don't think necessarily it would be the cost of a stamp. It might be, 5 cents to print the paper and another 30 cents in postage. The problem is people don't read that stuff.
Is there a government rate for things like that? Is there a different rate?
I think
We
that
get about 3 cents off.
That's it? No, that's
It's not much. It's not much at all. I think our current postage is like 51 cents or 55 cents, something like that for our meter.
Yeah, I know Ben would agree with you, but what's our theme here right now? Our theme is nobody's paying attention, nobody's voting, nobody knows. I was looking at again, the transcript of that same thing, 2018. It was the same thing. Nobody's paying
People wait till the
attention.
last.
Nobody
till
knows.
It's like, all right, here, we're gonna vote on it. Well, what are you doing? We're cutting stuff. Oh, well, I don't like that, or flip it down the other way. Like,
Right.
it's like they wait till the last minute because it's,
Not on the radar
Public
screen.
involvement is really difficult, and I don't think us as a committee are gonna solve that problem, but I think that making this.
The process
financial
has-
budget
try to make things a lot more transparent
accessible.
and accessible and afforded to people instead of, making them look for something. We should be showing them. We need their participation, so it's a wise investment for us to, say, here, we're trying.
You can't stop somebody from just taking control of the site, but people will also read it.
You're gonna get percentages, but if it improves the percentages, it's worth it. As I'm glad you brought this up, and I know we need to get back to where we were, but, Ben talked about, I'm a huge advocate of this signage thing. You see the signs on the highway, they're pretty good, right? They're good reminders over and over and over again, particularly with construction. The bridge is gonna be out next week. They do it for like a month in advance. Those are things we could do. The website has all the information. There it is. The vote is coming up. Yes, 3 or 4 junctures in town. Remind it over and over and over again. I mean, it's costly, but if it doubles the number of people voting or increments it by 15%, to me, that's money well spent.
Oddly enough, a bill was passed in 2012 that said that any expenses to either promote or to ask someone not to vote at any public election, which included financial town meetings, fire districts, all of this has to go under the campaign finance. That was a bill that was approved. So a lot of these meetings that are not really part of the council, but they're actually elected office, are working outside of that. And one of these days, somebody's gonna say something. I'm not gonna, but one of these days, somebody's gonna say something and it would just cause a whole lot more controversy. So if the town was to do that, they would have to file, with the Board of Elections, how much
Really?
money they spend on their signs and the whole thing. It's a recent law because what was happening is I guess they were getting people that were just throwing propaganda out there before financial town meetings. And whether it's true or not, it's out there and nobody knows who's paying for it. So something to keep in the back of your mind when it comes to the town actually because they're actually asking, and I would think that would be no different for them sending a letter out to every taxpayer. Some people at that
Well,
point, weird
yeah.
stuff, but
Often you'll see town committees who are either supporting.
Don't tell them when
or
the
not
vote comes
supporting
up.
the budget will send out a
Hopefully they
mailer.
just show up.
not
I love
positive.
to use the variable message boards from the police.
Not
It's
positive.
great, it's visible, put them in the center of town near the CVS and.
Yeah, same idea. And Ben said they did that once. I think they borrowed one of the police. They do have one or two of them. They're
Great
costly.
way to get out.
There's some great
It
signage
doesn't
out
really
there.
cost anything.
It's just like promoting a time date. I think
Yeah,
that's
we're not-
one thing. We're not promoting vote yes, vote no. We're
Right.
promoting, just announcing. that
There is an election. It's very generic.
it's not like come and vote for.
And I've seen it in a million towns. I mean, it's not new, nothing new.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm getting a ton of feedback. I don't know if it's the microphone, if it's my phone. I left the meeting room and came back in, but I'm still getting a lot of the feedback. I don't know what it's from.
How's that?
It's on mute. Is
That made it worse.
that on mute?
That's good. No, I'm not getting it anymore. I can hear everything clear now.
Check
Oh,
one,
better?
check two.
All right.
Civilus,
What if
Civilus.
it was maybe the rattling too, he was picking up.
It could be.
Could have been.
Yeah,
There was
could've been.
yeah, Scott, there was a real vibration going on in the back of us for a while that stopped. So maybe that was it.
Yeah,
How about
okay.
now? Okay, now?
It came back for a little bit, but it's gone now. So that was probably it. Cause I was like, it's
Yeah.
my phone, but I left the meeting. I came back and I could still hear it. So I'm like, oh, maybe it's the mic or there was something going on there. So.
There's a gremlin in that closet.
I'll have to look, see if I can find this. I seem to remember at the state level, in the recent past, they actually passed a law and had to do with legal notices, and that they didn't have to be in the newspaper. The Journal lobbied heavily against it. Obviously, they lost a lot of money, but, so it's not, it's doable, I think.
Right.
And there's also, somebody put something in the chat, I don't know what that is, but you guys can actually.
Ah, chat, nice. Oh, that's right there.
Hopefully it's better now.
It's
That's too bad.
it's coming back and forth.
I wonder if we ended and went back in.
What if we
I
know
wouldn't
this
know how to
person?
do that, though.
Okay,
Gone now.
okay.
I think it was two people on one device. It
Could
was
be.
looping.
Oh, that must have been.
Okay.
I
yeah.
Zoom a lot.
Again, a nice idea that maybe doesn't impact this charter is, and this is suggested, Ben, you could work with companies who develop these signs and do a pilot or something like that for very low cost. See if it works
Yeah,
for an election. If it doesn't, well, then you know you're going to waste your investment. But you probably can, for very low cost, work with a company, and I've worked with a lot of companies where I used to work that do that stuff.
yeah.
They might say, sure, let's give it a shot. Maybe we'd be able to sell you something in other towns near you. So that might be, we just mentioned it, Ben, that might be a good thing to do.
Any further discussion? And if not,
Can I mention something?
yes, absolutely.
A lot of us are hot in this topic. I think we all are. And if you read a lot of the stuff that was shared on the referendum, the vote by the town council to add that charter change, that did change, that did create a town referendum and didn't meet in the gym and do amendments anymore. It didn't go well. But the theme of it, I think we've all kind of have our arms wrapped around it with the ideas in North Kingstown and South Kingstown. I'm just thinking there's maybe a little subcommittee or two, three of us could really, you've been doing a lot of work. I've done work. A few of us have done work on this topic to really flesh this out to something that we can bring. Because it's a bunch of work.
Mhm.
The timeline's got to make sense. The particulars got to have to make sense. Where it belongs as we're discussing it. And this may be, this is the one thing, I feel like a lot of the things so far, one of us could probably go bring something here to the table. We can edit and vote on. This guy
It's complicated.
is complicated. And I saw President Dixon bring this up in one of the video links that we had, and it failed. It's a tough presentation, so we need to do a great job putting together and presenting it to move it forward. And I think, I don't know about you guys, I think this is a good one that we've got to really, really do a great job. So it could be a little, one of these things where if you have time, maybe a lot of folks I'm working, I'm not, I'm retired, I've got time.
But were those
I need to be-
part of the Zoom meetings went during the COVID?
Yeah, it was one, yeah, I don't know if it was
She
Zoom
put,
meeting.
she put two of them up and they both never got.
She
sent-
brought up
never
the
got a
North
second.
Kingstown petition concept
Yeah, and
as
it-
an idea. It
and-
didn't
and
fly.
Which is, I
Yeah,
watched that
yeah,
last week and
she
it's
did a good job.
pretty much exactly what you had brought up.
Right.
Pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could see that there was a little frustration in there.
Mhm.
And I think two of hers failed. One of
Carrie had one.
Councilwoman
And
Bacon, I guess, had something passed about
she had one passed, but it was about something completely,
public comment. I
yeah,
think.
or something unrelated, I believe.
Yeah.
To this.
Because I feel like it's one of these things when nailing down the timeline, nailing down the process and the verbiage, but also getting that feedback from other towns doing this type of thing. A lot of them do it.
Mhm.
Where it's been, their successes to add to the presentation. It's not just, here's what we think we should do, and here's why. Out there in the world where it's been done successfully, this is why it was successful, that type of thing. So it's a lot of work. It's a
So
ton of
past
work,
practice does have a place
right?
when you think about
Yeah.
it. So,
Yeah.
you know, when a community grows, they have to change the way that they operate. So, and this community has grown.
I think it solves a
Big time.
lot. It's got to be, marketed right, I think.
Yeah,
So just a suggestion.
okay.
I'd be willing to working on it with you. I mean, I'm retired. too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Because that-
1520
Have to do that.
amendment of charter. We've been talking about that one too. And that is exactly what you were just talking about a council person put in a charter amendment. And we were always wondering whether or not the council can just do it on their own, and they can.
Absolutely can.
However, I think that there has to be a charter commission in place. In other words, they can amend or add to what the charter commission does. So if you read that language, it doesn't mean that they could just turn around and say, well, we're going to change the charter. They can't do that according to the language in the charter.
So I'm just gonna ask this question then, because from reading the minutes, looks like in 2018, there was no charter commission. And the town council wrote an amendment, passed it, put it on the ballot, and it was ratified.
Which one?
The budget.
The one that changed the
Yeah,
budget.
The
yeah,
budget
yeah,
change.
yeah,
There was no, and in the minutes, one of the town council, I can't remember which one, said, can we do this without a charter committee? And our solicitor said, yes, state law allows town councils to put forward amendments.
All right, so now I
So
have to
that's-
go back and read the
so
preview and do the preview.
I'll ask you,
I did it.
is
I
that
did it
correct?
through council
That,
minutes.
It's in Article 13. It's right here.
okay.
It's
that's
right,
all,
it's
yep,
in black and white.
That's
It's Rhode
okay.
Island law.
okay, that's.
Sorry.
I could go into a long explanation.
We have extra time
No,
on
no,
our
no,
hands.
no, it's in the state, or state law or state constitution, that's it, period, that's fine,
Yeah, Article 13, Section 8.
Yes,
okay.
I have it highlighted actually.
Yeah,
But,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
And that, the same thing as we talked about last time, when you go, I think it's 1.03 powers of the town, and that's broad, and that's gonna be the catch-all, so I don't think that a commission necessarily needs to be in place.
Yeah,
To
interesting.
have them exercise their power. The way that I read the Constitution,
Now,
along with the charter.
to the group, because we're looking at small items in this whole provision about amendments to the charter. I was thinking maybe since we're trying to just clean up like who can serve, who's also on town, a teacher, or all those small things. I thought it would be a good idea if we rewrote it, keep the core of it, not really change much of it, but like clearly state like amendments can be proposed by charter committee, the town council, like there's how we go from there. Just try to kind of like organize it. I just feel that section as a whole is poorly written.
Yeah, 1520.
Yeah, like keep the, I'm not saying really change the process, just kind of fine tune the wording of it if we're already going to try to tweak a
but-
few small things in it.
Well, when you think about it, and in 2018, if they just amended it without any other reason to amend it, other than they felt like doing it, it's not right. ethically, for one thing, they could have put a charter commission together to do the work for them. So it seems like there was a little bit of overreach by someone to try to get something done. I think I know the reason why is because they had a financial meeting.
That was a disaster.
That went
They had a
south.
financial town meeting in June and it was a disaster. But,
Yeah.
you know,
It
they
went
approved the
sour.
budget, they didn't approve the tax levy, they had to come back, all that stuff. And suddenly 2 months later, they're like, this didn't work, so we'll just immediately put something out here.
So
Now,
it was the town solicitor, that was the
Moderator.
moderator that told the council that they can change it any way that he wants to have it done, which in my opinion is totally wrong. It's very king-like. Listen, you're not running the town. You know, if you had a bad meeting, you had a bad meeting, you know? Suck it up. Don't try to change everything to fit your whim. You catch what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. You know,
Yeah.
my personal opinion is like, look at us. We've spent what, 2 months trying to, and we're not done yet, trying to figure out a better way of doing it because I think the consensus of the group is what we have right now is not working.
Correct.
2018, we had an example where on one particular night, it didn't work, okay? And within a month and a half, a new idea was put out there and put on the ballot. That just as a minimum, looks like a knee-jerk reaction, and two, it looks rushed, but they did it because they have the power. I'm not denying that they had the power to do it, but
Yeah, it was very much a reaction and it was very much pushed by the solicitor and if you read the script.
Yeah.
They were trying to move that along as quickly as they can because they were frustrated. There's just no question about it. And keep in mind, back to your ideas on how to frame these ballot questions, 1,912 undervotes on that referendum that.
Mhm.
If
only
those
passed
people
by
knew,
like what, 50?
it was very close. It was very, I have the vote here.
I think it was less than 100.
Yeah, it was very close. And a lot of people were probably baffled by it. And then
And also the question was 3 pages long, so some probably voted and didn't know what they were voting
if you
for.
read the script, they wanted to do that to show that they gave it a lot of thought and all the details and there was a lot of line outs. It was confusing. So it's confusing enough that 1,912 voters didn't even vote on it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's,
they looked at it and saw that
what is this?
all that yellow language, it just turned it back over and
Yeah.
shoved it in the machine.
That's why we're
Exactly.
trying to change it, because this past
Exactly.
spring was the first time a budget actually passed on the first try
Right.
since then.
So I
Because
think this is most
The,
important.
like, personally, I voted no on it because it took away the right for people to amend it at all.
The amendment, you mean?
Yeah, the amendment.
Right, and there's
Yeah,
some happy
that-
medium, yeah.
And in 2018,
Yeah.
that vote took away the amendment, the right of the people to amend it.
Right.
It only gave
At a
them,
financial town meeting.
right, and it just pushed it to the strict yes, no at the
Yeah,
referendum.
I think we're gonna end up in the middle here somewhere.
Yeah.
And it should be, as long as, you know, we, again, present it right, it's marketed right,
Yeah.
our council on board. Hopefully it's framed as a really good thing, and I think it can be.
And I would imagine that the sitting council that went through that meeting probably were exasperated too, you know.
They were, they clearly were.
You know, we have to do something different, so they probably were receptive to a change. But still, you know, it shouldn't have been done that
The
way.
optics of it.
Right.
Whether
Shouldn't have been done
Yeah.
that
it's
way.
legal or not.
They should have followed, you know, the past practice of, you know, listen, appoint a committee to do it. You know, let's
To
get.
look
let's
at
get
it,
a whole
study
lot
it, do
more
what we're
minds.
doing right now.
Right.
You know, put a whole lot more minds in there and, you know, different ideas, because I don't know everything that's right. So it's, you know, it's gonna be, you know, a commission decision on what we do. You know, whether they want to go forward with it or not.
And to your point too, they can do something in a month and a half. We can sit here for 3 months and put together recommendations. and then they
Yeah,
can-
and then they could go now.
You know, I
Right.
would think that if we collectively as a group put forward an amendment, it should go to the ballot. You know, why does it have to stop? You know, the town council has that veto power.
You were away last week, and our presentation is gonna be us. It's not gonna be me standing in front of the council, you know, telling them that, you know. Ted's big on something, Brad's big on something, Sarah's big on something, then I'll stand beside each and every one of you. And that's, you know, That's what a committee thing does.
Which is great, and I think that's a good plan.
Makes it a lot less political.
Yeah, but they
politically.
could still say no to everything. We could spend 3 months on something, hundreds of hours.
Thank you for your time.
They give you time and they say nothing and it never even makes.
So
its
we
way
have
to
the option of
people.
not sending them anything too. There are some things that they want.
That is true.
So,
But it
you
doesn't,
know,
yeah, but then they,
I'm trying to do things for the people. I'm not trying to do anything political, and I'm not
Sure.
trying to battle
Yeah.
the council. They should understand that, if we do work and we think, something should be put on the ballot as a question, send it. There's absolutely no reason to not send a question to the people.
I'm curious if there's many that they haven't passed on.
What the last commission
The
day.
last one, it seemed like they were,
Quite a few of them.
There were a lot of them.
Quite a few, yeah, well,
They ended up-
term limits.
no, that didn't.
That
Yeah,
didn't,
they said no to everything, and then they
Yeah.
reconvened, and then they allowed them to get 2 done, and that was the same night as that thing where I think Carrie McGee put something forward. that
Carrie
was-
had something, Ann had something, and Deb had something.
Yeah, and Deb's.
Deb's got through, I just can't
Yeah,
remember.
that was just.
And it wasn't affecting the budget or election,
No,
it
no.
was like meetings or.
Yeah, it was public discussion
Yeah.
at council meeting. Instead of it being the decision of the council president, they put it in the charter.
Could solve this problem by striking 10 words in that section.
What section would that be?
So 1520. I don't know, yeah, the council would be on this. So the last sentence in the first paragraph.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
recommendation of the committee shall be placed on the ballot.
Period.
that's exactly
Yeah,
kind of
we-
what I
we
was
talked
thinking.
about
That's
that
what, that's what I had
the
said
last
last week,
meeting.
so.
Yeah.
Because it's, I mean, if we literally spend hours and hours and hours. Collectively, we all agree we should move forward with action. And then just a knee-jerk reaction, looking at something in that minutes can literally shoot it right down.
Last week, didn't we talk about two things we're trying to do? Try to survey the public, and we're getting some feedback from Ben on that. He put 2 questions out on the website. It's another whole other
Yeah,
conversation.
totally different questions.
But on the other hand, we talked last week about engaging the council sooner rather than later. Getting some feedback from them. Why not?
Right.
So,
Bob is ready to
why not?
send a couple of things over there.
Right.
He put
Right.
those 2 spreadsheets for.
To your point, why waste time? It's like
Yeah.
5-0, no.
And we don't have Ben
Yeah.
here, that Ben.
Right.
To take a vote.
Okay.
Because I want 9 votes.
Yeah.
And you
Sure.
get the chance to say no, so it's.
If I read this, if we, that got stricken, those.
Those 10
10
words.
words, okay. There's nothing in there that says the town council could not put a
Right.
question out there, direct contradiction to it.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
they
we also
could.
have the other provision.
And then
that
the
says
other
if you have
provision
to
says
contradict-
whichever one, if they're
Whichever
conflicting,
one gets.
whichever
the
gets
most
most votes.
So that scenario is protected.
And then we also talked about who sponsors the question, whether it be the council or the charter review. And like Wesley did. So they said this was proposed.
Proposed by the council.
Yeah, proposed by council, proposed by charter.
Yeah, I read that they talked about conflicting
Yeah,
provisions.
so if we wrote that into our charter.
Does Westminster Charter
You can do
actually
what you
say
want,
that
but the charter review is gonna.
It
do
talks
what the
about it.
people
It's,
Okay.
it's in their charter,
Yeah.
how to
Okay.
handle conflicting.
Yep.
Then they have like a runoff. There was a lot of weird things in there.
But it's strict,
In my
whichever one
opinion.
gets the most votes, wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah,
did.
election. Right.
It was interesting, Wesley, when they said, I don't know if everybody wrote this stuff, I had the time today to do it, but they talked about whoever had the most votes, but it had to have a majority. I think it meant it had to be over 50%. Or there's a-
Plus one,
there's a
or it
runoff.
was, it didn't matter.
there's a
Yeah, the
run-
language
Then they had a
in this-
runoff or something.
The language in our charter just
Something
says
like
the
that.
amendment receiving the largest affirmative vote shall prevail.
If they conflict.
Yes.
Allegedly, each amendment will have only yes or no, so.
That's one of those things we need to think about.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right.
Okay.
Guess we're gonna be talking about that some more.
Actually, in the case of conflicting amendments, you can put it in as a either or. Just like we're talking about with the budget.
Not sure if that'll work.
I'd rather, I think I would, do that. I think it's better to put separate questions and let you vote on each.
Either or is yes or no,
Pick one.
right?
Yeah, basically.
I think I like the either or personally to make people really weigh which one they're gonna choose. If they're just different ballots, different questions, people just gonna skim through it. They can do
Yes,
this,
yes, no.
The either or makes sense.
Either or neither,
Or neither,
or neither.
yeah.
Always
So
an
if they
option.
both got all yes votes, then they would go to the amount.
Yeah, so right, so like, if, let's just say term of office, one amendment says go to 2 years, one says go to 6.
Yeah.
And, okay, well, they both passed, but 2 years got more votes than 6 years,
Got it.
so, or vice versa, that's how it is. Versus one question where it's basically 2, 6, or none. And I don't know,
And it basically does the same thing as an either.
I know, it's,
But then imagine.
but then I just think it's funny if you look at results, let's just say 2, 6, or neither, which would be 4, and you get the results, and it's 40, 30. I can't do that in my head right now. I've been doing math all day. But you know, you get what I'm saying, like you have,
Yeah, no, I totally.
But now if we have the question for 2 years is first, like, oh, that looks good. And then they get to the next one, 6 years, like, oh,
I already voted on
already
it.
struck my Sharpie.
That could
Yeah,
be
there.
an issue.
That's gonna be an issue.
Definitely an issue.
That's, I think the either or just makes all the questions in one spot, it makes you make a decision.
I didn't think about that. but you're right.
There's gonna be a lot of objections on the ballots now, which one to.
Yeah, I don't think the
Well-
ES 200 would read that.
But it also becomes a moot point unless those 10 words are stricken.
Right.
I think we probably need feedback from the council on that as to whether or not.
I don't think they're gonna be a big fan of striking that, just a hunch.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's going to.
Yes, Scott, we had not quite.
Let me go back. 1972.
really finished this.
I think we're,
1520, right? Which paragraph?
last paragraph first.
So you're probably looking at amended language.
Yes.
Yes.
We are, this was actually just amended by the 2020.
All right, so I'll say what it, I'll read you what it said in 72. Last sentence. Said committee shall, within 6 months to its appointment, submit to the council a report with its recommendations for amendments, additions, or deletions. So something was changed?
What do you have
The
after
sentence
that?
we want to change.
What do you have after? Nothing?
Nothing,
Yeah.
After that is each.
other than going to the next paragraph.
What is the next paragraph again? Just
I
so-
have this charter may be amended.
Okay, all right, okay, all right, so that's okay.
So the
Yeah.
sentence we're talking about.
Is
we're
not
talking
there.
about Isn't in the 72.
Exactly,
Yeah, I'm pretty
So-
sure it was just added in 2020.
and there's not another date on that?
There's 99, 2020.
I think it was that, I think that,
resolution.
All right, so by resolution 2020, when it was done by the council without.
Editors note
without
this
charter
charter
review.
amendment was approved by a majority of the qualified voters in an election held 11/3.
You said it was done by resolution, the council did it.
that's a resolution ratifying the
Sending it to
approval
the
of.
ballot.
Oh, all right.
Scott, sorry, it's making that noise again. For anybody
Scott,
listening.
you hearing the noise in the closet?
It's coming, it's coming through again. Yeah, it's starting to,
Maybe that'll help. I don't know.
sometimes I can hear you guys, sometimes I can't. So I'm not sure if anybody's watching at home or if this, if it's, it's being recorded, how is it gonna play back
Yeah.
with the noise or not?
All right, so more homework on that one. Financial provisions. We just discussed a little bit of that. Does anybody have anything else to put in on that? I see Jim's going through his papers here like a banshee.
Not on that provision, but if we can go back to elections.
Go right
such.
ahead.
I had asked Neil about this last week. I took a crack at drafting. We had talked about fulfilling of vacancies
Oh,
for
nice.
elections.
Yeah.
So I took a crack at this. Pass it around. First off, for the heading, I thought we would like to have the provision for filling both school committee and town council to be identical. Right now, one is 6 months, one is 12 months. I just can't remember which is which right now. So I wrote the heading to be amended, and then they would have both of the same language. So, well, you look this over, I'll just read it for anyone who's watching. The proposal that I'm putting forward says, if a vacancy shall occur, the town council shall fill the vacancy. The person appointed shall serve until the term expires or is filled by a special election, whichever occurs first. And then subsections 1 says, if the vacancy occurs within 12 months from the end of the elected term, no special election will be held. 2, if the vacancy occurs with more than 12 months remaining in the elected term, but within 12 months of the next state of Rhode Island general election, the unexpired term will be filled by a special election held concurrent with the state of Rhode Island general election. 3, if the vacancy occurs with more than 12 months remaining in the elected term and more than 12 months before the next state of Rhode Island general election, a special election shall be called by the town clerk in the manner prescribed by law to fill such vacancy. 4, because I thought of this, if a vacancy occurs in the timeframe of subsection 2, i.e. within 12 months of the next election, but outside the time requirements for having said election occur concurrent to the next state of Rhode Island general election, the vacancy shall be filled in such manner as if it had occurred under subsection 3, which is more than a year away. And then finally, in all cases, the vacancy shall be filled by a qualified elector from the same district.
Nice.
Didn't you also add something in for the council to appoint after a certain amount of time? So let's say that someone left. Didn't we discuss something about the council can appoint someone until,
Like an interim.
That's what I'm trying to go for in the heading, that if a vacancy occurs, the town council can put someone in until whichever one of the time frame picks up. So
Yeah.
I didn't put a time frame for them to do that.
yeah, that would have to be in there.
Okay.
So. Good, this is.
So
good.
something like, if a vacancy occurs, the town council shall fill some
With like.
within like 30 days
Like
or.
within 30
30
days
days
or
or
whatever
something,
the
okay.
case may be. And then fill
So that way that
vacancy.
there's coverage, and then this determines whether we have a special election or when.
And or a general law.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is covering school committee and town
Yeah.
council.
So
So I know one of the,
So they mirror.
they would be the exact same. Yep.
But council does the appointment.
The town council would appoint, yes.
so town council can appoint school committee and somebody within their own council.
I believe that's how it is
within
right
their
now.
district.
If, when they get to, provided it's the same district, someone from the same district.
Right. So right now, the council appoints, for a vacancy in the school committee. But you wanted to tie it into upcoming election.
So let's take the open seat we have right now for District 1. That vacancy occurred within 12 months of the next state election.
Right.
So under what I've put down, as soon as that vacancy occurred, the town council could attempt someone to that position. We would have a special election that would be in November. And then that person would take over, the appointed person would serve till the election. And then whoever wins the election would serve out the remainder of the term.
So it would be cost saving, so they. the
So there
town
wouldn't be,
doesn't have to
there
have
wouldn't be
a
an election in May.
Special election where you
Yeah.
get 37 people to show up.
Correct,
What
for
happened last?
$6,000.
Very good,
And the appointed person could still run.
Yes,
very good.
Would it be, so majority vote town council?
yes.
That's how they would, something like that we have to
Something.
think about,
Unless
Yeah.
unless it's a town council position, then it could be a tie vote.
right?
Well,
I think-
you would still, it wouldn't count then, fail. You would still
Yeah,
need
it's hard to fail.
They would just have
Yeah.
to keep, it'd be,
find someone that
be like.
3 out of 4 people can agree on, it, or I guess
Yeah,
2 out
like a
of
budget.
2 out
Yeah.
of 3.
I think between our legal counsel and the town council's legal counsel, they can write it accordingly.
Right,
So I like that idea.
If, I guess the other, and we talked about this before, it is excellent, that is super. If they're partisan, I think that's the only instance, otherwise,
so would you, if,
it should be comparable, right? I mean, I think we talked about,
the funny.
You wanna bring this-
I agree with what you're saying, that if party X was elected,
yeah,
we should, and for appointing, we should fill it maybe with someone from that same party. But I don't know how to write that since we're not partisan
Yeah,
right
you
now, and I
can't do
can't
that.
guarantee we're going to be.
yeah,
So,
and I can't either, yeah.
That- even though I agree with what you're saying there.
Because I know part of the conversation, the concerns that we had, there's a hot budget issue in the town council, they need somebody to be on their side.
Right.
You know,
You could write it for for the school committee, but you can't write it for the council.
that's because it's the
Because
same
also-
conflict of
Yeah,
interest.
that's, yeah.
It's a conflict of interest
So.
on the council. I know. Who
I
else
know,
could do,
it's-
who else could do it though?
I still think it'd be an issue if we have a tie in the town council to appoint someone.
Yeah.
Then
because
there's
they could-
nobody.
They could just hold that up for months and months and months
They
and
could.
months, and then
I
they
know.
can never get any business done.
I know.
I mean, there's gotta be a tie-breaking person if it's a council member. In my opinion.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So are you all proposing to get rid of 3.06 and?
Basically strike it out,
Strike it.
yeah.
So nothing about informing local parties, any of it. So I'm not saying it's necessary, I'm just saying that. if you
So
strike it
let me,
out, then-
let me ask you this question. What is required by like state laws so that it, if it's already required at a higher level, what needs to be here versus what is our preference? You know what I'm saying?
I think some of the stuff you're asking is in state law. So notification to, the different parties and so forth. I think that's part of state law.
And it's,
That's part of the reason why I didn't put it on this
Yeah.
sheet, those type of things, post, I think it's one thing says posting on the website and like those, again. I'd rather, if there's stuff that we have to do that, whether it's here or not, I don't feel it needs to be here, but if there's something we want to make sure happens.
We're gonna be discussing something in a few minutes that Scott wants to talk about that might answer the question for you.
if I can do.
Yep.
That last line, I think needs to be based on the conversation that I'm hearing, Joe Guy's decision, but, this goes back to what we were just talking about. Now they want 3 forms of local media or in the town's website, and so to me, that seems cumbersome.
Mhm.
So whatever, if you make changes that we were talking about earlier, then try and use maybe the same language
Yep.
on how
How you want
notice
to,
is
yeah,
gonna be done, so it's consistent.
that would make sense.
Good. Good. All right. Office of Personnel and Records. Ben was big on that, and he was talking about, last week, he was talking about removing someone from a board commission. It is in the ordinances under 5-31, removal or suspension. And I'll read it to you. It says, any town council appointed member to any town council appointed member to any town of Coventry board, commission, committee, authority, agency, panel, organization, entity, or any other position may be removed or suspended by the town council for cause following a public hearing from such board, commission, committee, authority, agency, panel, organization, entity, or other position. So what he was saying is if someone's appointed by the manager, there's no way to take the person out. The manager doesn't have the authority to do it. So we could add any town council or manager appointed member of any,
Yeah.
right? So I thought that he was going to be back, so apparently he's going to be a little bit longer, so I can just hold on to this.
If that's in the ordinance, then the council can amend that. They can amend it.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if you want to take a look at the ordinances, it's 5-31. Removal or suspension. Let me see here. It was March 13th of 2009 is when it was enacted. So I think he's pretty much all set, but if we added the word town council appointed or manager appointed, I think that would take care of his
Mhm.
concern on that, because he said he had,
Yeah, it's one of the board, I don't remember which one it
Yeah.
was.
that just fell off the plan.
Someone just,
So I will also make sure that I give him a copy of this. See, next, 1023 was the $10,000 issue. I think that we pretty much closed that. I don't know if there's any more discussion on it. Ben and I will probably talk and find out. I thinking I can get a hold of someone on the finance committee at the state level and say, what is the state?
What is it
do
and
for
how do you,
purchasing?
yeah,
And, does it follow that?
and
that
find a way to
same-
mirror the language.
Right.
I read something, I don't know if it was Westerly, where they wrote a general statement and really kind of referred it to like an ordinance
Mhm.
to handle that. All the research I was doing and you were all doing, I'm like, to me, like I said, I looked up what I could without talking to the procurement office. I think you're going to kind of follow up with that. What is the formula in the state? I think it was West. So I thought I had tabbed it here too. It's a very generic paragraph that just kind of alludes to.
It takes
There's
it out-
ordinances,
it takes it out of the charter. puts
takes it out
in,
of charter.
And gives the council the authority.
I remember Sarah brought it up, and that to me, that makes a good idea. We're kind of micromanaging the finances in the charter,
Right,
in my opinion. And
especially now. It's,
Right.
putting a number on something now is,
I mean, there were some parameters, but it was general.
Yeah.
And the exact amount of what they need to do, they needed an ordinance, I think.
right. Let's go to new business. 7.1 is number of town council positions, additional districts, or at large for 2 more positions. We spoke about that last week, Scott. Asked that we speak about it a little bit more. He thought personally that large seats would be hard to fill, and I can't say I disagree with you, because we can't even get, regular seats filled, so. Tell us what you feel.
Well, when I saw that from Councilman LeBlanc on the initial, when we first met, that we got those sheets from each one of the council people, kind of what they wanted, things they wanted to talk about, maybe things they wanted to add, and then what we could talk about. So that was one of Jamie's things. So I kind of saw it. I'm like, why is he, my thinking was why 2 at-large seats and not just, two more seats of, say, District 6 and District 7. Because I felt like an at-large seat for the whole town is like we talked about, we can all agree, like it's tough to get people to run for a smaller district, right? How are you going to get somebody to run for an at-large district? Like that's a daunting task in itself. That's bigger than a Senate seat that I ran for, based on like the population stuff. So, I mean, I'm all for adding 2 more seats to the council. I think this town is big enough. More, like you said before, Scott, more representation is always good. But for me, I don't think 2 at-large seats would work. I think if we did go that route, if we talked about it, me personally, I think if we wanted to go that route, I think 2 additional districts would be better than 2 at-large seats.
I can't disagree with you, but I do think that the challenge would be aligning those 2 additional seats, redistricting, and how those seats are going to be formed. I think I can ask the board of canvassers what they think about that, how hard it would be. I would think that the people behind me in the western end would gain more representation. It would just, we'll say we're gonna have District 1 and District 2 start in the western end, and then they're gonna come this way, and it's all gonna be done by population, because that's how it has to be done. So you would have more compact districts here on the eastern part of the town, but you would have an additional council person, so to speak.
Yeah.
That District 1 currently has, because, they're half the town. If you threw a rock halfway across the town and landed in the middle, District 1 is there and all the other ones are over here. So it'd be a good question to ask, but I'll check with the board of canvassers and see if it would be a difficult thing to align those with representative and senatorial districts. It really shouldn't be, but because they usually have they have 4 subsections of each district, like District 2A, 2B, 2C. So I'm not sure if they can just change the numbers and move those subsections into a different number district, like District 6 or whatever. So you might end up with 3 subsections of 7 that fall into the same representative or senatorial seat.
This would also affect the school committee.
Yes.
too.
Yeah, that's,
Well, we're not proposing to put 7 school committee people on.
Those 5 come from the various other districts.
so then we would
Yeah,
have,
it would have to affect both. We'd have to do. it
unless you want to, give them the task of coming up with 2 different maps for the same town.
That won't get.
No.
In any event, I'll ask the Board of Canvassers and see if it's a difficult thing.
We're already having a hard time, something to think about, we're already having a hard time filling school committee with 5 seats, now there's 7. Well,
It's not the first
Well,
time that this has been.
just to throw it out, okay, 39 towns, only 11 have 7, 24 have 5, and the rest are 9 and 15.
Be quite there yet, population wise, maybe move up to 7.
Yeah.
I mean, we have grown a lot, but I
Yeah.
don't know if we're quite at.
I know
7.
Cumberland has 7.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, Newport has 7 too. And then I think Tiverton has 7 and they're much smaller. There are some communities out there that have 7. I mean, I can do some
There's
research.
11 of them.
There's 11.
11.
11, okay.
Yeah, to me, and then Ben brought it up too, you go across the country, there's large cities that may have 9 counselors. And it was a really good point. But if there was demand for people running for office, having 7 would be better. That's work, that's help, that's people making time to do that, and that's a good thing. It's like we have 9, that's fantastic when you think about it, to work on these things. But right now, everybody's making a point, it's hard to fill seats, it's hard to get people to run.
just
really
going
hard.
from 5 to 7 solve any problems.
Right.
I don't see where it does.
For our town, in this state, I think it would probably cause more problems.
Yeah.
Probably so.
Because
Yes.
if you look
Yeah.
at the shape of the state, District 1 versus the rest of the
Yeah.
city, we're pretty unique in the fact that we have a large rural section of town.
Yeah.
Okay, and then a densely populated section of town. The only one that comes close is Cranston.
Yeah.
And it's almost the reverse.
Yeah.
As far as the density goes.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
You'd almost have to move to 7 at-large positions at that point and not make it district if you were gonna increase the amount of numbers. I think that's really the only way you could do it. Move everyone to at-large.
That sounds painful.
It does.
Yes,
Yeah.
it sounds, as a
Yeah.
candidate, if
Now
I
we're
was a
making,
candidate, I
now we're
would
making
want
two
that.
large changes, go from 5 to 7 and from districts to at large and.
Now we
We-
need 7 people to
Yeah.
campaign the whole town.
And I still
Right.
don't see the original problem that this was meant to solve.
Yeah,
Right.
that-
Like,
Yeah.
that's my.
that's the
take
thing, was
with
like, yeah, what is the problem
What's
that
the
we are,
benefit?
Yeah,
or is it just, hey, here's an idea.
If I were a person that lived in District 1, and I wanted to run for council, I would want 7, because I wouldn't have to traverse
You don't have to go through all the,
50% of the size of the town,
Yeah.
you know,
You know
it would
what,
be
though?
cut a little bit. That's-
Going through redistricting now myself, even if we did add 7, someone would have the equivalent of pretty much District 1 as it is. They might, if you formed another district, it might take a little bit from District 2 or District 3. I don't know, I'm not looking at a map right now. But I think generally speaking, because it's completely population based, so what it's saying is District 1 has to have the same amount of people within 10% as District 5, so to speak. So
we're probably only shaving a little geography
you're
from District
really
1.
only shaving just a little bit. I think District
You would see
1
District,
still remain rural.
you would see
and
District 5 like shrink, and
underrepresented.
then,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, right. So I don't think that it would change that. We wouldn't necessarily get 2 people in District 1, is
Right.
kind of what I'm, by doing that.
no increased
Yeah, it would
expense for
also-
polling locations.
It would also dilute the representation in District 1.
Right.
Less rural representation by, 1/5 instead of 1/7 instead of 1/5.
Mhm.
Right.
But it sounds like we don't want to make any changes. What it sounds like to me.
Well, I'll still ask the Board of Canvassers to
Oh, yeah,
to
please.
see
Yeah.
if, you know, if it's possible, and,
I mean, they have new incentives there from this past year.
Yeah.
too.
and I think I may have to correct myself, because I live in District 2, and I think there's only 3 subsections in District 2, A, B, and C,
Yeah.
where there used to be 4.
Yeah.
So. All right, so. Let me see. Oh, membership on declaring vacancies on boards and commissions. Is that you?
Sorry.
1506?
Yeah, that was me.
I brought something up earlier under Office of Personnel and Records, and I probably was in the wrong spot, but section 531 of the ordinances addresses that. And I think the only thing that would need to be changed would be any town council or manager appointed for a commission.
You could do that.
Right? So what that would do is it would give the town manager the authority to, you know,
Would it only it would only apply for the town manager to remove members of a town manager appointed
correct,
committee or board?
there's only three that you do. You said it was the auctioneer, the town sergeant, and
The EDC?
no, it was, no, not that one.
Well, the EDC is appointed by the town manager.
You sure?
I did it.
All right.
Does that mean we could completely repeal 1506 then, since it's covered in the ordinances?
Oh, this is in the ordinances for the removal of suspension. Yeah, you could. 1506 is
Basically a duplication.
a duplication, and in the interest of simplifying the charter to be a general governing document rather than a specific one, this would be, it would be a lot easier to revise the ordinance than it is.
Just let me get my red pen out again. We'll be like, we'll get on to a 3-page document.
So I found this today, and I think that's exactly what he's looking at, and just by adding,
Well, I wasn't looking at it because I was looking at the charter.
Yeah.
So having it in the ordinance then begs the question, which takes primacy, the charter or the ordinance?
right, so if the people didn't vote to change the charter and left that in there, you could change the ordinance to give you that authority.
Like so many things that the charter is inconsistent with, we just continue anyway.
Yeah.
We're not doing the financial town meeting on the second Tuesday of May or Thursday because we just can't budgetarily make
Right.
it. And a lot of what we're finding with the budget process is outlined in the charter. We can't do it because the state hasn't given us our revenue numbers, or there's a lot of budgeting that we can't do until we get it from the state. And if the state's not consistent with our charter schedule, then not.
Can I ask you a question, Scott?
Sure.
That statute that you're, ordinance, I'm sorry, that you're referencing.
Yeah.
Does it talk about people pleading guilty or no or convicted of a
Yes, it
felony
does.
or, okay. So then, yeah, it is all consistent.
So that's, if you want to, if you just want to peruse it a little bit, it pretty much says the same thing about, you know, they have the same thing for a person that is a town council member or a school committee member or even an employee and the moral turpitude and all that. It just, it covers a whole lot of
Actually, a lot more
stuff.
detail, that's better than the charter section.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's a lot of fluff in this charter.
So maybe Sarah put a red pencil on it there. And
Don't give me
maybe
red
we could
pencil.
recommend that they just eliminate that section. And that they, if we suggest that they change 531 to include any appointed member by the council or the manager on a board or commission. So that should pretty much address it, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Enjoy it, Sarah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Are we saying we're striking this and then?
Striking it and
Using
then,
the ordinance.
we have an ordinance, and
Existing
we just need that,
ordinance.
Right.
that needs to be amended for this part of it, but we can strike this entire thing out of the charter. Just say,
Right, addressed by ordinance.
I don't ever remember the manager appointing the town sergeant. I always remember it being the council, to be honest with you.
Some communities it's elective.
Hasn't happened since I've been here, so I
Okay.
wouldn't know.
All right. Who is the town sergeant? Still,
Is it Jim?
Yeah.
Jim
Yeah,
Spanier?
Jim Spearman.
Okay.
Mr. Sanders.
You want that?
Sure, thank you.
We're still
Just trying to be helpful. Okay.
110.
So the last item on our agenda is the approval of a draft press release that you did,
Yes.
and
Done.
it's done. Is it on the,
No, because you wanted to vote on it as a group before it went out.
okay, so I really can't call for a vote without Ben.
It's for a draft release. It's not.
That was
for-
my understanding. If I have a mistaken understanding and you just want me to put it out, I'll do that.
Go for it.
Okay.
Is that the one?
I don't think we, I don't think we need all
That
9
was-
of us to vote for a press release.
Yeah.
It's one thing to wait before we vote to send or not send, but.
Well, it's, it's kind of generic
yeah.
and it's educational. It lets people know,
Yep.
it carries the history of, home rule
Mhm.
when it began in 1970 and the Constitution, and all of that. So,
I just want a little tweak on it. I wrote it, so.
So,
You're editing yourself?
It's just, where all these links are down in the third paragraph.
Yeah.
You'll just see where it says period and, so I think it should be period. The charter review homepage is at this link. It just the word and got stuck in there.
Oh,
It just looks wrong.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all, just grammatical. That's all.
Thank you.
That's it. And you update the date, obviously.
Is it possible for Ben to inform us about our results for the survey so far?
Oh, good question.
I haven't checked, but yeah, I will check next Wednesday. Then I'm gonna be out of town for a week, and so I think I have this survey running till the 25th or something, or the 28th of April. That was a question. How long do you want this survey to run? Do you want it just to be ongoing, or do you want to stop it after a month and get the results?
We're gonna add the next thing, type.
Well, we can always add more to the form.
I think it should have an end date, so then we have
Yeah.
final numbers we work off of. Once we start working off numbers, then they start changing.
The question I had is, I saw 2 questions out on the website as like a Google Doc type
Yeah,
thing.
Google form, yeah.
Because I thought we were gonna do folks who had emails with this alert system that we had. So we're
Yeah.
doing it, we're just putting it out on the website.
Well, we're putting it out on the website. At some point, if I do send out an email alert, we'll just forward the link via email so that it'll bring them to the
Okay.
website and they'll do it there.
Okay,
Is that code red that you're using for
Yeah.
that? Yeah, so do you guys pay to be able to do that? Because I know,
Well,
unless if
we-
you're using the free version, they'll only let you use it. for
No,
emergency.
we're paying for the annual usage, but because they want it to be emergency only, we'd have to put some kind of emergency message of please be careful walking across the street.
Get to add to that. Okay,
so, but right now, it's just 2 questions sitting on a website where we hope people go and
Right.
vote. But they don't know how to go, they don't know how to
So-
go there. I
so
just
the-
stumbled on it myself.
The press release is kind of designed to
Steer traffic
steer
that way.
traffic to it with all those links, and we'll have that posted. My hope is that the press release will get copied into many people's social media, feeds and.
I definitely share.
Yeah, as soon as it came out, I shared it on all pages I could.
does,
To share on the top of Coventry town page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
did you send that one to
Yeah,
the,
this town
That
is
should help.
to the group you were telling me
Trying to
about,
get the news.
I try not to.
Uh,
put it in.
all the media outlets that are
My
out
wife
there?
just tells me
No,
what's going
I
on.
have
yeah,
not
mine
sent
too.
it out because that would be a press release, so if you want me to send it out, this is where it's like, okay, now I'll send it out.
Okay, perfect. Go for it.
Last doing, you're doing it.
I can't.
I just wondered if we could add
Because then I'll
verbiage
see
in the
students
press
and
release,
they'll
because
go
people don't know
nuts.
that you can vote on potential ballot changes that are there. In other words, it says we know there's the charter documents out there, there's a website out there, the YouTube channels out there. we want them to participate here and weigh in. You hope they see the questions.
Weigh in with your opinion on the charter webpage poll.
Yeah,
Mhm.
one sentence will do it,
Something.
because that's easy too. You go out there, click, done.
Yep. Write the words, send them to Ben.
I will. Want me to just give you a sentence? Or you can write a sentence.
Sure, or I'll
Way in
have
there,
to- it's
not in the
a-
cover.
I think you know what
Odds
to do.
are, you're gonna have it
I'll
ready
write
before I get to my seat tomorrow.
Yeah, you're doing. So we're here to help,
Also
you know, that's why we're
I
here.
appreciate that.
Hey.
And you write very well, so I'm happy with that.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do help out. I'll
All right.
write a sentence. Do that.
Public comment. You are public.
Did you want to go over the two things here?
You like to present them to us?
I can.
Okay.
Okay, last week you charged me with the reading a couple of documents. Term limits and term length. To the first two pages that are on there. The term length, should the term of office length at the town council be changed from 4 years to 2 years, would be the question on the ballot. It is mainly section 301, number, term, and constituency, but it also reflects into vacancy and filling vacancy. Obviously, the term will have an impact on that, so I reference those two sections as well. Pros and cons. 2-year municipalities consistent with the majority of the state Rhode Island municipalities. Potential candidate field increases to include candidates who may not want to be able to commit to a 4-year term. No barrier exists for a candidate to run in subsequent elections. Electors have a shorter cycle to change their town representative. Short terms would reduce the potential for calling a special election in the event of a vacancy occurring prior to the end of a term. With your
With, yeah,
12-month limit, if it's a 2-year term, you don't have anywhere near the chance of doing that.
Yeah.
The cons with 2-year term, there's a risk of reducing the experience level of the town council, as all the council members will come up for an election at the same time. And you could have potentially have a
you
complete
can go
term.
5 in,
Slight
5 out.
change.
Right. Reducing the term length eliminates the ability to have staggered town council elections. All states would become eligible at the same time. So this also affects the question of whether or not term limits should be included.
Real quick on the term length, is it possible to add another con?
You can add as many cons as you would like.
I'm just thinking it could deter people from running again. If they've got to run an election every 2 years, that's a lot of work, time from family.
Yeah.
It could be a
You're right.
traditionally.
People that I've seen either, well, a lot of elected officials I've talked to, campaigning is their least favorite thing to do. It's important because it connects with the people, but it is a big deterrent, and I've seen people appointed that would prefer to just always be appointed.
Yeah.
In fact, they didn't even run, and when no one else ran, because they had 3 seats for 2 people that ran unopposed, then he got reappointed to the 3rd seat.
It's a good strategy.
When it works.
Uh-huh.
It works.
Okay, the second part of it is council term limits. Okay, pros, again, the question, should the number of consecutive terms of office for town council be limited to X number of terms to be determined with an interval of, again, X number of terms to pass before the candidate can run again? So is it 3 and done completely, 3 and done, wait a cycle, come back? You know, would have to determine what the wording would be for that. Again, it references the same sections of the charter. Pros on that is term limits may reduce potential abuses of power by incumbents, may encourage new candidates to run for office when the seat becomes open. Term limits may increase the ratio of competitive elections. Term lengths for cons, term lengths provide a means for the electorate to limit the office of a council member. Limits are an infringement of the elector's ability to select a candidate of their choice. If you've told the person they can't run and I want to vote for that person because I like the job they're doing, you've taken that right away from me. Limits can provide the electorate deprive the electorate of the experience and or special talents of an incumbent member brings to the council. Term limits will require the promotion of at least 2 new candidates once an incumbent's term is reached to have a competitive election. So it's not just a matter of getting one person to run. If you want a competitive election, you need 2 people to run at the end of that period, at least 2 people. And the majority of Rhode Island municipalities, 29 out of the 39, do not impose term limits. One other thing to add to that is the last page in that packet did not get mailed out. This is printed out of a site. It should be in the
Second.
back of that. And this is basically published out by the National League of Cities concerning term lengths and limits. And this is verbatim. I did not even correct their spelling.
Good catch. Ben.
Go to the website, you can see that. But it was a pretty good synopsis of everything that I had found. One of the things that I have found, and this relates mostly to studies that were done in larger cities, so I'm not sure if that would translate down to our level. But the idea of bringing in new change and incentivizing new candidates to run does not seem to work. You still get the same types of candidates. So
The only thing I'm looking at the town council term limits, we referenced number of terms. This could change drastically based on if council term lengths change.
yes,
Sorry. So,
that's why they have them both interrelated, because
yeah.
you've got to really work the 2 of them together.
So I guess my question is, does it make more sense to, instead of number
Years.
of terms, it's number of years?
You can do it as number of years as well. Some of the other towns do it that way.
Okay.
East Greenwich has 12 consecutive years,
Yeah.
for example.
So that's one of those things that if, let's say, term lengths doesn't get passed, but term limits gets passed. Now,
You might have.
and it's like we've lived with 3 terms, now it's 12 years, somebody could be in.
Mhm.
Let's say, I don't know, just thinking out loud.
So that might be a better way to phrase it,
Is the years.
based on years, and then
Yeah.
it would tie into the cycles.
That way you could pass and not necessarily.
Yep,
then be
doesn't affect
affected by
that, yep.
Something else.
Exactly.
Well, that would be a way to incentivize at-large positions, if you could be elected at large for 6 years versus 2 years for the regular districts, because you have to canvass the whole town.
Yeah,
That's an example.
yeah, that's a lot of work.
I just had a quick question on the length. Are we limited to doing elections every other year because of we want to limit it for cost reasons? Like, could we have?
Could we have
could
town
we-
council elections?
Could we
in odd
stagger
years?
it so there's a town council every year, so it's only 3 and 2?
Well, then you're having an election every year instead
Having
of
an
a
election every
2-year
year.
cycle.
Right.
This is gonna be. a
And the
2-year
off year
cycle,
ones
so-
we gotta pay for, or we gotta pay more for.
Right.
Right.
Like the election summary that showed how many people didn't vote. Candidates.
Yeah.
You have it, right? So,
Yeah, I have.
interesting. Does it have the question on there too? On the vote
No,
on
this
question?
was strictly a summary.
Okay,
So it went into the percentages, and there were 2 other things on it, but they weren't really. They didn't really relate to anything here. They didn't have the questions on it.
okay. Good, I like this. Anything further?
That was it on these things.
Remember too, I had similarly, I put this together. That's your undervotes. That's what you're talking about, right? I think you have that. I think I did a similar chart for the ballot questions too. Undervotes as well on those spreadsheets a little bit. A bunch of these, if you want one.
You have the one?
I have one of the ballot questions too.
Yeah.
I think I have it here somewhere. Similar scenario.
Yeah.
Lots of undervotes.
Well, it's, we're trying to make it easier for people to vote on a question, and
Yeah, and
because, they've turned their ballots over and seen a horror show because it takes up a whole page for one question. And then they handed another ballot for the rest of the questions.
Yeah, I had two little mini spreadsheets, one similarly, I think this is a nicer spreadsheet, but.
I think that you emailed me that.
Yeah,
Whether I can open it, I'm not sure. but
the PDF file.
If there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, we are adjourned.
This was the other one.
Bye, guys. Take it easy.
Kind
Yeah.
of interesting.
That one I gave
These are
you.
where they were all approved. There's one disapproved. This is the